Hello crafty friends, today I'm going to share with you 3 cards I've made for teenage boys using this paper pack here from Echo Park. It's called About a Boy. I'm also going to bring in some specialty paper from these 2 tonic paper kits or paper blocks. And I'm also using this Hip Hip Hooray die from the Stamps of Life. Starting off, I've chosen to cut myself a fancy label, and I've also pre-cut my sentiment there out of the autumn papers. I thought the colours went nicely there. I've started by taking this nice bright orange paper and cutting my frame out of it. I'm then going to place inside of that a piece of cellophane or acetate, I should say, and I'm going to make this into a shaker window. I'm pressing that in firmly. I've used red tape there to make sure I've got a nice secure hold. I've gone around the outside of my card layer and with foam tape, and now I'm just going to use different size foam squares to fill in the space so that my shaker parts will stay more in the center of the card rather than going to the outside edges where they can't be seen. It does take a little bit of time to lay all these pieces in and get them fitting right, but not a hard process to do, just a little fiddly and time consuming. So I've just about got all my pieces in. I want to make sure that none of the foam that I've put there behind the frame can be seen. I'm now taking my backing piece for the cutout, applying some glue, and then I'm going to flip that over and just lightly place it on my card base so I can check that the position is right. And then because I've got enough glue on there, I've got some wiggle room that I can make sure it sits in there perfectly. Now I didn't need to cut it out in that frame shape. I could have just cut a whole square piece of paper to put behind there. Right, now once I'm happy with the position, I'm just going to remove any excess glue that squeezes out once I push the piece down. And now I'm going to get ready to put my shaker bits inside. So I'll peel off all the liner backing for the foam tape. Make sure I catch it all. And then I'll get ready to fill in. Now, because I'm making a teenage boys card, I wanted to choose some shaker parts that would be more masculine. So I found these cogs in like a gunmetal grey, a silver and a copper colour, and I'm going to add those into my shaker area. I just thought they added some bling and they make a cool sound without being too feminine. And then I'm also going to bring in some green sort of iridescent stars to add into the mix. Make sure I have plenty of those in there. And I'm also going to add some blue stars, colours that show up on the background paper. I decided I also wanted to add in some white and silver, so I've grabbed some out of a sequin mix there. And then I'm going to place my shaker frame on top once I've put a little bit of glue around my foam, because I want to make sure I have a really strong seal and that it'll stay attached there, because those cogs are quite heavy and I don't want them slipping underneath the frame. So I'll line that up with all my edges, press down. Now I will put acrylic blocks on top of the base for quite some while until the glue's dried. Now these are some like dials that I've cut out from a piece of the 12 by 12 pattern papers. I'm going to add those onto my card, and I've also taken from another pattern paper that has all these like Scrabble tiles, and they've got words made on there. So I've cut out 2 there fun and happy to add to my card. I'm making this card specifically for someone I know, so I wanted to choose words that would describe that person's personality. So now I'm just going ahead and gluing on my pieces. Now these pieces had flat edges to start with because of where they were on the 12 by 12 cut apart sheet. So I thought they would work perfectly on the corners there, and it gives balance to the large sentiment that's in the centre of the card. So I'll place my acrylic blocks on top again just to make sure they get good all over contact with the paper, and wiping up any excess glue that squeezes out from underneath. The glue does dry clear, but I just like to make sure there's no lines or excess that you can see when it comes out. Being careful not to put too much glue onto my sentiment before I put it on, because I don't want that to show up on the clear acetate. Using my tweezers there just to help make sure I've got it in the position I want. Putting on that large block, and I'll leave that on there for quite a while to make sure the glue adheres. It's important not to put too much glue on there because it will take a long time to dry. Now I am still unpacking, so I haven't been able to find my favourite glue, and so I'm using the glue that I have found from some of the other boxes. My favourite glue to use is the Barely Art glue. It has that really nice fine tip nozzle that you can attach. So now I'm just adhering onto there my 2 words, and while that dries I'm going to bring in the 12 by 12 sticker sheet, and I'm going to pull off some of the little stars that are on there to add some more dimension and interest to the card. Picking out the coordinating colours and adding those into the corners. I think I've gone with a set of 3 over here. And then I also cut out from the scrap paper 3 more stars with dies, and I'm going to add those up there into that top corner as well, just to give some balance, because we've got a lot happening in the corners diagonal from that. Last little one, just a little tiny bit of glue being placed on there, and then I'll put it into position. Now I'm going to go ahead and take out the numbers 1 and 3, because the teenage boy I'm making this card for will be 13, and I just like to add that little extra detail into that corner up there. It's not glaringly obvious, but it is on there, and it's just another nice little detail to add. I'm using my glossy accents now to just add some highlights onto the different parts of those elements that I've placed on there. So going into the stars, adding some glossy accent, just gives it some more of that dimension and more texture. And it also gives that glossy effect that you have with the acetate window as well. So I just think it's nice continuity there. I'm just going over the stars that I've die cut from the pattern paper and adding the glossy accents onto that. I'm then going over top of the numbers there that I've got from the sticker pack sheet, and the glossy accent sticks very well to the stickers from the 12 by 12 sheet. No problems with it bending or lifting off the stickers from the card. I have also decided that I wanted to add some of the cogs that are in the shaker card to the outside of the card itself, and then I added an additional sticker that says Rowdy. I've made an insert there for my card, stamped 13 balloons, and then put my sentiment on the inside. So that is my first card finished. For card number 2, I've chosen this really bright paper with the different sizes and types of cogs. I'm going to use adhesive tape to attach this to my card base. Just find it's nice and strong, and if I'm going to put anything that's weighty, I know that this tape will hold it in place. Lining it up, getting it nice and even, and then give it a really good press to make sure I've got good adhesion all over. To contrast against the bright colours, I've chosen this fairly solid background orange paper, and I've attached 2 strips of the copper paper from the autumn paper pad that I had earlier. This panel here you can see I'm going to glue on is the label part that I used from the first card. I've cut it in half, and now I'm offsetting them just above and below the middle of the card. Here's another one of the patterns that I cut out from a 12 by 12 paper sheet, and previously to making the card I've got my glossy accents and put highlights on those pieces so they'd be dry and ready for me to use when I go to make my card. I'm just attaching that strip there across the middle and using my acrylic blocks to make sure there's plenty of weight to hold the paper down while the glue dries. I've taken this little scrap piece of paper with the blue zigzaggy pattern on it to contrast across the middle band of the centre panel. I've also used dies to cut out a happy and birthday, and I'm going to attach those to the top and bottom half of my cards. I've then taken the handsome sticker from a 12 by 12 sticker sheet, and I'm going to put that in the middle on that orange banner on top of the blue strip that I've got the diagonal edge. I then decided I wanted to add some of the little metal cogs, and to attach those I found the best way was to put glossy accents on the back part of the cogs and not directly onto the card, otherwise you get the glossy accents shining through the gaps of the cogs. I've also attached one of the stickers from the 12 by 12 sticker sheet, and it says go go go, and I'm putting glossy accents over that to highlight it. And then on the awesome sticker, sorry, not awesome, handsome, I'm going over with the glossy accents as well, just to bring more of that element across all parts of the card. And that was that one all finished, ready to go. For my final card, I'm taking another 6x6 square card base, and I'm using a happy birthday die from the Stamps of Life, as well as some acrylic pieces from Heidi Swap and these really cool chipboard shapes that I've had in my stash for a while. I'm taking this pretty paper from Pink Paisley, and I'm using the side that has a space background, and that's going to be the setting for the rest of my card. I've attached that nice and firmly to my card base. Now I'm adding a shaker element to this card as well, but this time it's going to sit on top of the card rather than being set into the card. I've got black glitter cardstock to back my shaker element. I'm adding a little dimensional star in there and gluing that in so it stays in place. And then I'm adding a number of different types and shapes of star, sequins or scatters. Attaching the top layer of my shaker to my glitter panel. I'll then place my acrylic blocks on top and leave that there for quite some time to dry. The backing for my shaker element is another piece of glitter cardstock that I've then cut 2 strips of bright red glitter cardstock to line each side there. I'm going to attach that with some glue and let that dry for a few minutes. I then also cut a slightly larger circle frame to go around the outside of my shaker element, and I'm just getting the glue spread out there. I'll position it lightly onto my card, making sure it's in the position that I want my shaker element to be. Once I've got that in place, I'm going to turn my card over and trim off that little excess part. Then I'll go ahead and attach the shaker element to my card, making sure that there's an even amount of that red circle frame showing on all edges of the shaker. I've then taken lots of those chipboard pieces from the pack I had, and I'm attaching those to the card in a multitude of places just to give lots of movement for the eye and interest as well. But as I'm attaching, I'm finding that the sticky on the back of the pieces isn't very sticky anymore. So I'm just putting a light covering of glue on there and then placing it back onto my card. I will come back and re-glue the pieces that I've already attached to the card as well. As you can see, that little gamer control there, which is supposed to be stuck on, isn't very sticky. So this is where I go back and attach it. And I'll also do that with the little Space Invader critter back at the top. And I deliberately positioned that so the yellow would show through his eyes. I've got these Heidi Swap acrylic stars that I've had in my stash a long time, and I'm just popping that up with some thin foam strips, and then I'm adding the rest of the details on, including that light creamy coloured Space Invader at the top there. I then decided I didn't like the sentiment that I had down under the shaker sitting flat, so I've popped that up on some foam tape. And now I'm just attaching the other Space Invader fighter ship to the top part of the card. I'm then going to attach 2 more of the acrylic stars to the background and making sure I've got them firmly attached. Then I've decided this card could use a little bit of sparkle, so I'm using my Spectrum Noir pen and I'm just going over both of my little rocket ships on this card just to give it a bit of sparkle and some other type of texture to the card as well. I've had to give the pen a good squeeze because I wanted plenty of the ink to come out and make sure there was plenty of shine. Just going over the buttons on the little gamer control as well. Once that's done, I'm going to go back over the birthday sentiment on the shaker. It has been cut out of a pearlescent paper from the autumn paper pack from Tonic, but I just found that I would like a little bit more sparkle on the sentiment, seeing as it's got that glossy background from the acetate. Then I'm going to continue on some of that reflective surface using the glossy accents on both of my little fighter planes or fighter starships, and also onto the buttons of the remote or the game control. And there's the outside of my card finished. Just giving it a shake there. Things are moving around. For this card, I've also made a card insert. On the front side, you can see I've stamped different star constellations. And for the inside with the sentiment, I've just added 2 little star shapes using the black and red glitter. So there's my card. The glossy accents is dried. Now adding some double-sided tape into the card. I don't go edge to edge because I make my card insert slightly smaller than the card base itself. So peel that off. I've got my insert there ready, pressing it from the outside as well, just making sure it's all firmly attached. And there's my card. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing my 3 teenage boy cards I've made. It's not something I usually make many of, but I've had the need this year. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and I would love it if you'd consider subscribing if you haven't already, and giving me a thumbs up to let me know that you've liked the video. Bye for now.